Over the last 2 months, I went all out and sought to get the response from a section of Mount Kenya leaders on why it has always been an uphill task for Raila Odinga as Mio One Kenya coalition leader and former Prime Minister to penetrate the Mount Kenya voting bloc. And the common response I got from them was that it is because of the supposedly Raila phobia. Now, what better way to put this conversation to rest than to have the insights from the renowned public scholar and top political analyst in Eastern and Central Africa, the first of his name, Herman Manyora.
Why are you limiting me to Eastern Central Africa? I'm an international citizen.
Really?
Ah, my friend.
I think that's why our fans...
You are localizing me.
Are you that big?
Not big, but I'm not. You can't pin me to Eastern Central Africa.
Is it why...
South of the Sahara and north of the Limpopo? No, I'm beyond that.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm an international citizen. Walk with me in any international airport in the world. And you'll find people who engage me in politics. They know me.
I think now that's even better reason for you to take us to Malaysia for Christmas.
I think I'll try.
They say you're a low-key billionaire in Kenya. A low-key billionaire in Kenya. How true is that? Los Angeles, here we come.
You know me, sometimes I don't even have gas in my house. Don't you know? You know, sometimes I can't even afford a meal. But it's okay. I thank God for the little I have.
And you're content with that?
I'll want better. But where is it coming? I don't want to steal.
Then why are you going for the presidency? There's big money in there.
To help the people of Kenya.
Everyone comes with that byline.
No, it's different. Manyora doesn't need money. Anyway, let's continue.
Let's get straight into this conversation.
Yes.
In 2007, after the general elections, Kibaki was forced into a coalition government with Raila Odinga. And a section of Mount Kenya leaders intimated to me that how Raila treated Mwai Kibaki, they said he treated him with contempt amid him being at old age and being an elderly president. He should have at least been more kinder to him. And they say that's the author of the Raila phobia in Mount Kenya bloc. Do you really resonate with the argument?
That is cheap argument. Nobody ever treated Kibaki as well as Raila did. If Kibaki were to wake up and document the treatment he got from everybody in the world, the best will come from Raila.
Really?
This is a man, from the time Kibaki gets an accident at Makutano, all the way to London for treatment and managing the campaign. I mean, that's what Raila did, all that. And Kikuyus were celebrating him and calling him Jamba, Jamba, Jamba. On Kibaki's, I think, homecoming back to first time he was going to Nyeri. All the way, people were celebrating Raila more than Kibaki himself. Jamba, Jamba, Raila. So that's not true. That's just cheap talk.
If we go decades back...
And then, not just campaigning for Raila in 2002, for Kibaki in 2002. Not for taking care of him, including making it possible for him to fly first class and have people put him on a plane, physically, Raila himself. Not just that. Even accepting to work with Raila, with Kibaki, after Kibaki had stolen his victory.
Stolen, you say?
Yeah, obviously, everybody knows that. And not just that. Getting a raw deal in the sharing of government when America had put its foot down. Condoleezza Rice came here, Secretary of State. She said there must be really power sharing between Kibaki and Raila. No illusion. Even after that, Raila and Sagana accepted a raw deal. And then they worked together. Occasionally some little friction. But they worked together until the end of Kibaki's term. Remember, at that time, Raila had more numbers in parliament. And I want Kenyans to be honest with themselves, at least for once. Raila ODM had more numbers in parliament than Kibaki's PNU, which are just a handful. The speaker was Marende. A Raila pick, an ODM person, a Raila MP. So they could have done anything to Kibaki. I think if Kibaki were to speak the truth, he would say nobody has been good to him like Raila Odinga. So that bit of Kibaki is a lie.
I see. If we go decades back, there was a time Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Raila's father, actually came forth and said he cannot compete with his teacher. And that teacher, he was referring to Jomo Kenyatta, and he handed him the baton to actually lead the nation, and he stepped aside. Now, a section of Luo, Nyanza politicians and also Azimio supporters feel that this is a debt that the Mount Kenya bloc hasn't repaid in kind or actually just by getting Raila to status. This year was the closest they will have done that. Do you support that argument that indeed Luo Nyanza should be given a chance at leadership because also they sacrificed at some point their very own for the sake of Kenyatta?
You know, my friend DP Rigathi Gachagua, here he doesn't mind being called Rick J. He was telling us that we Kikuyus pay our debts. I laughed. Which data is he talking about? You have rightly put it. Jaramogi sacrificed everything to support Raila. If Jaramogi had joined hands with his neighbors, the Luya,
Kenyatta.
yeah, the Luya, how could even Kenyatta have won? Leave alone surrendering to him. All he needed is to work with the Luyas and the other tribes. And Kenyatta would not have had the numbers. But you see, Jaramogi was more sophisticated than people like Kenyatta. Mm-hmm. He was more far, he could see farther than they were seeing. Mm-hmm. He knew the Kikuyus had borne the brunt of colonialism more than anybody else. And he knew it would be more fitting for a Kikuyu to be president in 1962-63 than for anybody else. So his was a reason. It was not emotional. It was a reasoned way of looking at power in Kenya at that time. And apart from the fact that Kenyatta misused that power, Jaramogi was basically right. And that explains why, unlike many other countries in Africa and the rest of the world who became independent around our time, the time we did, we've been relatively stable. That one move from Jaramogi Oginga Odinga must be seen as being, because I'm writing a history and preparing a documentary on the history of Kenya. And I can tell you from my own serious understanding, reading, research, and critical analysis, it is that one thing that has made Kenya remain one nation when others were falling down.
I see. So,
if it is a question of paying debts, surely, who would the Kikuyu owe more than the Luo? So, it's not about paying debts. It's just cheap politics. It's normal politics. Yeah.
Tom Mboya has, Raila Odinga has been likened to Tom Mboya with regards to the fight for a healthy democracy and championing for the rights of every Kenyan and just humanity at large. Back then, the stars were aligned for Kenya to have a Tom Mboya presidency. And that is perhaps what contributed to his death, as many historians have alluded to. This far, a number of Kenyans, now that they liken Raila Odinga to Tom Mboya, fear that should Raila clinch the seat to be Kenya's president, that he won't give room for ill health in terms of democracy, or rather going against human rights. Is that fear for radical changes from Raila's presidency what is making people try to blur his path to presidency?
You know, Raila has been associated with socialism, radicalism, communism, if you wish. And that has made people fear him, even at the international scale.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, the thing that people fear most, especially now, is that he will make things right.
But make things right is a good thing.
He will light the candle for Kenyans. And many people like operating under shadows. You know, people want, you cannot do deals with a Mother Karua Raila Odinga presidency. And that contributed to their fate. Yeah, so people fear Raila. Initially they feared him because of his radicalism, which he shed off. Socialism, which by and large at a global stage is not as dangerous as it was thought to be, with the collapse of the Berlin Wall, scattering of the former USSR, remaining only Russia and whatever. So what is left to make people worry about Raila is that he can do things so right that the buccaneers, the cartels, those who engage in state capture cannot sleep well. That's what people fear about Raila.
Even at the international stage?
The international stage, yes. Because, you know, the West thrives on the basis of exploitation of the third world countries.
Not goodwill?
No, the exploitation of the exploiters. And therefore, if you have leaders in Africa like Raila Odinga, Magufuli, you know what happened, and that exploitation by the West of Africa could simply come to an end. And
But
they fear.
But this exploitation, you say, comes in the form of good tidings in terms of grants, aids, debts to this country. Don't you see you're just castigating the West over allegations that are not true?
Who tells you Africa requires those things? We don't require those things. Who needs the other? We don't need the West. The West needs us. Because if the West doesn't have third world to exploit, there will be riots in Berlin, in Frankfurt,
China.
in Tokyo, in London, in New York. There will be riots.
All right.
Those economies would even collapse if they have no third world to exploit.
World Bank boys.
Yeah. So we don't need them. They need us. Let me tell you this. If you became the president of Kenya today and paid off your debts, you'll make the West will be your enemies the way they were, and they made Ceausescu their enemy of Romania. Because he cleared the debts, told them, go away. And now you have seen what I was saying here. You are the economist and not me. I said this country can collect 6 trillion. Did I say that?
You did.
Has the president of the Republic of Kenya said that?
You said that as a target.
He has said it.
Yes.
That now he wants them to double.
Yeah.
And then in 3 or so years, he wanted them to move 6 trillion. Is that the figure I had?
Yeah, true.
It was not born of just imagination. It is possible we can collect 6 trillion. But let me move it further. What I said, what he hasn't said. If I'm the president of Kenya, I can pay off our debts in 5 years. All of it. We remain with zero. Clean. Hakuna deni tuko nayo. I want to point out to you, if you reached that point where you are telling the West, we don't want anything from you, we have paid everything we owe you, we are not dependent on you, we are going to operate as equals, you'll get into problems.
And that's where they fear Raila most.
Yes.
I see. We've seen a recent pin drop silence from Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, and actually still the head of Azimio One Kenya coalition. But when it comes to this penetration and just ability for Raila to have that gravitas in Mount Kenya, with this silence from Uhuru Kenyatta, should it prolong and probably get to 2025, 2026, and Raila actually harbors the thoughts of a 6th bid? Don't you think the silence from Uhuru Kenyatta will now blurry his influence in Mount Kenya completely?
Let us get one thing right. It is not true that Mount Kenya gave Raila a cold shoulder, as we used to say when we were young. Because the votes Raila got from Kieni constituents alone, I think were more than he got from Nyeri in the previous election. So Raila got more than 1 million votes from Mount Kenya.
Mount Kenya.
That's not a small thing. With a sort of turnout that really was there, the really turnout, vis-a-vis the really votes Raila got, that is a sterling performance. If Uhuru did not play Raila, and he still supports Raila, I think if Raila were to be interested in the presidency, Uhuru's support could still count for much.
I see.
Yeah.
The Mount Kenya blocks, you've analyzed history so well, and actually matters with politics and the place of church in politics, especially in this year's general election. The Mount Kenya voting bloc is one deeply rooted and grounded in Christianity. This is why we've seen so much bile and vitriol being poured at the doorstep of Raila Odinga with regards to his strained relationship with the church and his remarks over the same during the electioneering period. You've seen him call out the church whenever he felt that they were wrong, and actually has been labeled all kind of names. Should this strained relationship actually go on, and this country is now gravitating towards being a religious nation, don't you think that will portend even more danger to his future political ambitions should he harbor one?
Is this country a religious nation?
State House is a mini church.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But that could be happening because spirituality and religiosity are not the same. I don't think Raila has had a confrontation with the church. A few people tried to turn his pronouncements against him and to try to portray him as one against the church. But I think that was a small matter. Raila was just pointing out that I think to the colonial government and a bit of our government, we've tended to play things in a certain way that seems to favor a certain side. But that's just an observation. Raila has never been against the church, and that was quickly explained away. So I don't think voting and the church could be anything that Raila should be worried about if he wants to stand.
I see.
And not at all, not at all, not at all. In fact, what Ruto did with the church was to endear himself to the leadership of some of the churches, many of the churches, by being nice to them and so on and so forth. But the rank and file, the voter in general, was convinced, not on matters of religion, just convinced that Uhuru had messed the economy, and therefore the man Uhuru was bringing, they should disregard him and to punish Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, again, coupled with the Raila phobia, the way the Kikuyus have been conditioned to believe Luos are demons and those kind of things. And I think that's what BBI was trying to address. So for those who didn't understand the handshake and BBI, the thing that Uhuru and Raila were trying to address was a major thing that can bring this country down.
All right.
Yeah, that ought to be addressed. Just like the rest question in America. You can sweep it under the carpet, but it keeps rearing its ugly head. So the Luo question in this country will have to be addressed.
And this year was
the sooner the better.
Can you say that this year was the closest that issue would have been addressed if Raila had got to power?
Yeah, it would have been a very simple way. That's what Uhuru had in mind and Raila. You just bring the Luos together to the mainstream of government. Maybe Raila becomes president. And the feeling that the Luos have been persecuted and all those kind of things.
Profiling.
And profile and suffered more than any, which is true. The Luo have been persecuted more than other people. They have borne the brunt of dictatorship more than anybody else. Luo sons and daughters have been denied promotion and employment and hiring on the basis of nothing else than they were Luos, including Obama's father.
What?
Yeah. So the Luo have borne the brunt of this thing. And I supported BBI, the principle of BBI, on the understanding that we need as a country to address two things. One, the Luo feeling of betrayal and the persecution, and the Kikuyu feeling of entitlement.
Absolutely.
I've written about it. Unless you address the Kikuyu feeling of entitlement and the Luo feeling of betrayal and persecution, this country will never know peace. If you think I'm wrong, you wait and see. Even as soon as 2027, you could see the Kikuyu rearing their head.
In the fullness of time.
The feeling of entitlement will drive the Kikuyus to go for the president even before 2032. Why? Because I said there are two problems. The problem with the Kikuyu and the Luo is the first problem of this country. The second problem is Kikuyu Kalenjin. It's not sustainable. For that reason, the Kikuyus can be sharp enough to see if we wait for 3032, the country cannot accept it anymore. Everybody will gang up against the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu. And therefore, they could quickly go for the thing in 2027. You see how I'm saying?
I get it.
And therefore, those things will keep coming to haunt us until we face them head on in the manner in which BBI was attempting to do.
And we address it today, if not yesterday.
The handshake. The principle of the handshake was to address those twin problems.
All right.
Yeah.
Because of time, let's wrap it at this. We have seen Martha Karua and Peter Kenneth in the recent past, they harbored presidential ambitions. Should they do the same in 2027 now that they are still under Azimio? And then Raila Odinga will be left as a lone ranger. In his camp right now is Kanini Kega. If we are looking at a potential mouthpiece to work for Raila in Mount Kenya, now that Uhuru is in retirement, don't you think it is right for him to convince and groom Kanini Kega as early as now, and in the best way possible to have him as his mouthpiece? Because without Amartha Karua or Peter Kenneth in there, and now Uhuru in retirement, then that means he'll be left as a lone ranger in Mount Kenya. Don't you think so?
I think that's a wrong premise, a wrong assumption. One, Martha Karua and Peter Kenneth are still with Raila. I'm not seeing anything to say they'll go away. Secondly, Uhuru is still very much around. And thirdly, Kanini Kiega is still a junior politician. And that is evidenced by his pronouncement the other day. He's saying Luos didn't vote for him when he wanted to go to Yala. That's my interpretation. So I think it's too early for that. Secondly, your assumption is that Raila will not be perhaps running for office. Again, it could be wrong. And so on and so forth.
We wait to see. Time will tell.
And politics is not as straightforward as the way you think. There are dynamics.
A complex matrix therein.
And then again, you're wondering what will Raila do if he's isolated. If Kikuyus provide a formidable candidate without us saying who that candidate is, by 2027, the field will now be open to 3 or 4 candidates. Because if the Kikuyu have their candidate, then Ruto misses the bulk of his support. So he becomes just another candidate.
No outright winner.
Yeah, just as that Kikuyu will be just another candidate, and Raila or his heir like Kalonzo will be another candidate. So 3, 4 candidates will be starting at same level.
Same level.
And any of them can finish the race, even if it is photo finish. Yes.
Well, that point by Herman Manyora takes us to this conversation today, talking matters, the Raila phobia in Mount Kenya region, and he has actually unpacked the myths therein and set the record straight. So it's up to you to take the insights you wish to take and actually align yourself with the right kind of reasoning with regards to the same. This is Nairobi Review Productions. We invite you to actually give us business in terms of events that you want us to cover for you. If you want corporate moderators, you can have Herman Manyora in there, Jadiel Kabiro, and any other host that you wish to. All you need to do is to reach us via our email address, which is displayed there at the channel board. So go in there and give us business. Trust you me, you'll get value for your money. This is Nairobi Review. Until next time we meet, my name is Richard Mwenja. Such a pleasure.